Okay, a very good morning, dear friends. Today we're going to see about the buzzword called magnetic resonance imaging, or it's most popularly called as MRI. So, the expansion of the abbreviation MRI is magnetic resonance imaging. Okay, so the concept behind this particular imaging is often very confusing. The main purpose of this particular lecture is to make the underlying physics of MRI as simple as possible, so that even beginner or a person who is a novice can easily understand what is this MRI. Okay, that's the main purpose of this particular discussion. We'll have a series of lectures, each will be having for about 10 minutes each, so where we'll discuss about the different things about MRI in a step-by-step approach. Okay, now as I say this MRI, before MRI we have a good others type of medical imaging. Okay, so we have X-rays, we have CT scan, we have ultrasound. Okay, and we have PET scan. um, in this path we have MRI also. Okay, now what is the most beautiful feature about MRI is, so MRI is called as something like a gold standard. MRI is something called as a gold standard for anatomical imaging. Okay, so for anatomical imaging, what I mean by anatomical imaging is, so suppose you just open the body, you can find all the nerves, things, bones and all. Okay, so basically in medical they'll have particularly two cases of study whenever a doctor study about the body in medicine. So they'll have something called as anatomy, second one they'll have called as physiology. So anatomy is about the structure. It tells you about the structure of the atom, structure of the bones, structure of the different structures in the body. So that's about anatomy. And whereas physiology tells you about the functions of these structures. Okay, suppose I say the bones or the particular cell, whatever be the structure you define, you call it as an anatomy. And if you define what is the inner component, how they are linking, what is the kind of hormone that is happening, what is the kind of functioning, you call it as physiology. So MRI is called as a gold standard for anatomical imaging. What I mean by that is, if you use an MRI, the image will be something like you just cut open your body, and if you take a picture, okay, it will be something just like that. Okay, so it will be absolutely void of errors. So that's the beauty of MRI. So, and the important part of MRI is it doesn't use any harmful radiation. It doesn't use any harmful radiation. Okay, that is another striking feature of MRI, because if you take your counterpart X-ray or a CT or ultrasound, where some kind of radiation is passed into the body, whereas MRI till date none of the harmful effects have been reported. That itself will tell you about the greatness of this particular MRI. Okay, so if you take this word MRI, as I told, it's the expansion magnetic resonance imaging. So we're going to see what is the basic of each and every word. We're going to justify whether these words are correct. Okay, so magnetic, how the magnetic is going to play a very key role. We're going to see how the concept of resonance comes into picture, and how we are going to use this particular idea to bring about imaging. Okay, how we are going to do the imaging. So basic idea of imaging is something we are going to picture the body, what is happening inside the body. So it is not that we are going to just cut open and see what is inside. Rather, by using some sort of phenomenon or some sort of interaction, we are going to see what is happening inside the body. That's the basic idea of medical imaging. Okay, so in that way we are going to see about MRI, magnetic resonance imaging. Okay, and I'm going to tell you in the form of stories, we're going to have a lot of fun. That's the way we are going to learn about this MRI. Okay, so in MRI, the very important thing you should know is the origin of MRI is actually NMR. It is nuclear magnetic resonance. So the nuclear magnetic resonance is later transformed as MRI. Okay, so originally it was NMR. So NMR is used as a spectroscopic tool. Okay, so basically NMR is used to identify a presence of a particular chemical in the general nature. You want to search for, or you want to identify an unknown chemical, they use NMR spectroscopy. The same principle extended to human is called as MRI. Okay, so that's how the birth of MRI. In fact, they found this word nuclear somewhat difficult to digest for medical, so they put it as magnetic resonance imaging. Okay, fine. So, and if you know who is the father of MRI, so initially the concept was postulated by Paul Lettenberg. Okay, but he came out with the idea initially, Paul Lettenberg, but actual the first MRI machine was built by Professor Damadian. Okay, so Professor Damadian is called as the father of MRI. Professor Damadian is called as the father of MRI. Okay, he made the first MRI machine, and the very interesting aspect is the first MRI machine was made in 3rd July. Okay, 3rd July, way back in 80s. Okay, so that's the thing about MRI. So in the future videos, you're going to deep dive into this MRI, and we see what is this MRI, how the magnet comes into picture, how the resonance comes into picture, what is the underlying mechanism, what is the basic physics. Okay, we're going to deep dive into it step by step. Okay, so thank you all.